I'd say that's stuck on there. Alright. Let me get the chisel. Try to be as nice to this as possible as we go with the cast aluminum pan. So we're going to use a brass punch to start with. Yes, it's stuck on here because I high-tacked it on the... I super high-tacked the gasket nut in hopes of sealing the oil pan so I didn't ever have to take this apart again. Yeah, well, the good news, there's no metal shavings at the start. But basically, what we're looking at, I'm going to grab it and we're going to go for a trip. Whee! Look at in there. Look at all them. Basically, these suckers are called balancer gears. And they're out of time. And they're a little bit of flopping. So, I know. I'm not doing a very good job. We'll turn the camera down in a minute. But, basically, they're not in time. And so, the engine is vibrating. We're going to take it back out and retime them, right? Mm-hmm. Right. So, obviously the engine is turned the wrong way, so we're going to have to rotate it. Crap. Okay. Alright. Basically, these bouncy gears, now that we have the engine oriented, we can see it. There's two of them in there. Way back in there. So, that's how you're supposed to time it. You take the flywheel out, and then you can get to these, time them with that little tool. I actually finally went out and bought the specialized tool, since I've had to do this 5 times. Not on this engine. This is only the second time I've had to do this on the engine. Blah, 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 blah. So basically it just says you got to line that mark up with that mark. Alright, so and then that just tells you you got to rotate it and line it up with the camshaft all at the same time. And then you drop that in. Alright, that's basically all this is saying. Is we got to get these marks to line up. And I don't believe they are because the engine vibrates a little bit. These engines are supposed to run as smooth as possible. That's what these bouncy gears are for. But the problem is, when the bearings go bad in them, and they lock up, or they get out of balance in any bit, it'll blow a hole through the block. It's very common. So, because they had that problem, these getting wore out so easily, they would just throw them out. They'd pull them out, throw them out. That's why a lot of guys, you'll see the stud in there, or engines after they found the problem, they would just have a casted nub that wasn't machined down for the stud, but it was still there in the casting process. I mean, what's the point of changing the entire cast when all you're doing is taking out the step of machining that stud in there? But either way, yeah, so that's what it looks like. 2 of them up in there, and we just need to double check that the timing mark is correct. And if it's not correct, we're going to have a nightmare because I don't want to pull a crank. What involves pulling a crank? All the PTO, all the clutch assembly, flywheel, and then the cover right here. All of that would need to come off, and I'm not doing that. Plus all the seals in between. No. And we'd have to take a connecting rod off and push the piston all the way up and maybe it clear to get it out. Otherwise, we'd have to take the head off and then put the piston back in. We're definitely not doing that. So we're going to cheat as best as we can to make sure these are in time because the engine vibrates excessively and it shouldn't. Basically, this just shows you need to line up 2 markings on the teeth with the tabs on the arm. So that's what I did. It would be that mark right there. If you look down in there, I don't know if you can see it. I can't zoom in on this, can I? Oh, that's even better. Well, if you look very closely, I know the flashlight's in the way. That's on the mark up there. And this one is a tooth ahead. So, it's off by 1 tooth. Well, and give me a break on that. because these are helical cut and that kind of length, it's a real pain to try to guess which tooth they're gonna need to go on to match up. All right, so give me a break on that. But basically, I should be able to rotate this around, and if this one is the one that's off by a tooth, if that one's off by a tooth up there, then okay, there's a problem. But if this one is off by a tooth, and I can get them both timed correctly, so I can push this one ahead one tooth, then we should be okay. But if that one up there is the problem, might be running into issues. Either way, we're gonna rotate it around and make sure that the line on the crankshaft, I gotta pull the tool out, prevents me from rotating it. That line right there. That big line right there. Gotta make sure that lines up with that. And I believe it does. So if we watch it very carefully. I believe it is. So the front one might be off a tooth. Great. I gotta get these tiny little snap rings out. You can see them in there. That one's not even in there. Ah, crap. We're gonna have a good time with this, aren't we? Yes, we're at this point. I finally found some snap rings that'll work because I still haven't put the first one on yet, but we're still playing around. Basically, you gotta get all the way down here, take the connecting rod apart. If I can get this to rotate, apparently it's locked on the connecting rod. Oh, that's right. Dummy me, still have the tool in. Basically, if you look down in there, we'll do it like that. You can see the tool is lined up there and lined up on that notch. As tight as, that's as close as it's gonna get, is getting lined up on those notches. Now I am just confused on why this one has two notches on it. If I can get it to focus. See on this tooth, right there, there's a notch. And then there's the timing mark. So, but that's where the tool lines up perfectly to line up with that one. And then when you turn it, turn it the other way. Not easy because, well, the connecting rod's taken off. But when you turn it like that, that puts them perpendicular to each other perfectly. And then right there, that timing mark is supposed to go to that oil notch right here. Sorry, my coordination is terrible. As what it says. Here in the manual. Right there's timing notch, lubrication passage. Right there. Boom, boom. Tools in, lined up. Right with both timings. And then bottom one, as it rotates, that notch is supposed to meet that. So when we rotate it, apparently it just does not. It lines up with the secondary. So I don't know what its deal is. You want me to line it up like that, but yet you picture it like that. So that syncs them. But then you turn the flywheel to that. I'm so confused as to which direction to look. I have had nothing but problems with these balancer gears, but I prefer to stick them in there because they will smooth any engine out. And I will prove it when I get this put together finally. And this 140, hi, my helper. Once this 140 is put together and I let it even just idle, you'll watch it. Watch the hood. It will vibrate perfectly level, perfectly still, minimum vibration. You get on my 120 and it will sit there and do this because it doesn't have the gears. It's not because Not because the engines are junk or I assembled something wrong, it's because those gears take a lot of balance out. So while I continue to figure out why it tells me to put the tool in here and line it up like that, but yet you want the bottom one to line up like that, that makes no sense. All while trying to keep it in time with the cam gear. It's mixed up. So finally, well, admittedly looking up another YouTube video to figure it out of what all that crap means, this is the way of how to do it if you have the tool. That is the way to do it without the tool. It clearly says there. Obviously I can't read today, but don't laugh at me. Don't laugh at my pain. Yes, I'm recording you.
I know.
Basically, if I can rotate this around kindly. Sorry the audio cut out at this point in the video. We're going to do our first voiceover on this situation. Basically, once I finished a YouTube video from isavetractors, which they have a lot of instructional videos for. I know this is not a paid advertising, but I get all of my Kohler parts from them, and there's a lot of instructional videos on how to rebuild these engines and fix them up. Basically, at this point, I'm just trying to turn over the engine to double check all my timing marks and get it swung around so that I can show you guys what I finally figured out. As I mentioned, there were two methods, one with the tool, one without. It showed that the primary timing mark has to line up with that notch on the block. Once you do that, you stick your timing tool in there. It lines up with the two primary marks on the balancer gears. And yes, that is very difficult to see down in there, but that's exactly where the tool lines up. And make sure you get both gears in line, and then you can get it swung around and make sure your camshaft is lined up. That's a little bit more important, but yes, you need the balancer gears in place and balanced so that they're doing their job. Now, once I rotate it around, this is the second method without the tool, is lining up the secondary marks on each of the balancer gears. Again, they need to be in sync, and you line up with the primary and the secondary marks on the crankshaft if you don't have that tool. I finally bought that specialized Kohler tool. After I've had to do this 3 or 4 times, I felt like it would be necessary. Balancer gears are a nightmare. That's why a lot of guys just throw them out, because they're not really necessary. But yes, make sure you actually read the book. It makes it very confusing if you're trying to do both options with the special tool. It was worth all of the $50 off of eBay for that tool. But at one point I did replace the needle bearings in these bearings and had to properly shim them, or, as why people throw them out, the bearing will lock up and put a window in there, just like the rod blows. Basically, in continuation of this, we're finally ready to put the oil pan on. Put a little bit of high tack on, which was frozen, so we had to put it in one of the heat vents to thaw it out. But basically, we take this, just slap it on. Then I'll get a second coat of the high tack, put all the way on, and we'll be ready to bolt it on. I gotta find the oil pan bolts. I'm sure they're somewhere in here. Yeah, not a good mess. And then that's just covered in more parts. Alright, well, bear with me on this. the real trick. Yeah, that's a problem. I'm gonna need to charge the battery up a little better, but that's alright. Looks like it didn't have the screwdriver in the way. 9 volts. That, folks. And on that note, now that this is running, I gotta shut the jump back off. Now that it is running, we gotta do a couple things to it that are gonna be fun and exciting and very special. That, well, I wanted to do to this tractor to begin with. But for its purpose, so we can actually use it for a couple things, we're going to put something special on it. And a couple other extras that are hidden someplace I got to go pick up yet. Other than that, thanks again for everybody watching. Don't forget to always like it, subscribe if you haven't. Always Instagram, Snapchat. And if you go on my Instagram, I am giving away stickers with my logo on it. I'd be more than happy that all you got to do is guess the trivia question. If you get it right, send me your address. You mailed it. I've mailed out 4 so far. Everybody loves the decal. And also a little bit of a surprise coming up. I already have, yes, I have t-shirts and I have decals, but we're starting to lean towards a local guy to get some more stuff made, and that'll be a surprise. Maybe I can open a merch store if you guys want to support. Maybe donate a tractor or 2. Nah, I'm kidding. A few people wouldn't be happy about that. But again, thanks for watching. This will wrap this up until the next video of our shenanigans. Sorry for lack of videos this winter. Been super busy with it snowing. Haven't been able to do a whole lot. Obviously my job is to plow the snow. So when it snows, I'm in doing my job. But a little bit of overtime means some extra money for some more projects. Maybe some bigger stuff. Maybe we go halfway across the country. I didn't get to show you that video this summer. 12 states. I'll admit it. Tag along. Maybe we'll do it again this year. Thanks for watching.